Hey everybody, welcome to the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. Dan Labbe with Mary Kay Cabot here on a Monday, the day after the Browns lose to the Patriots 32-13. A Hey Mary Kay edition of the podcast. Questions from our Football Insider subscribers, and as you can imagine, Mary Kay, there were a lot of them. So we're gonna get to a few here, and then of course, if you send in questions, Mary Kay goes through those for her column that runs on. She either puts it up on Saturdays or Sundays. Make sure. So if we don't get to your question, just know that it could end up in print, could end up online. So we'll get to as many as we can here. And I want to start with this one. You know, we've talked so much about quarterbacks, and we certainly will talk more about quarterbacks on this pod, but this comes from Evan in Boston. Hey, we were just in Boston. Hey, Mary Kay. I'm seeing a lot of people argue that Myles Garrett doesn't deserve to be upset because he chose to stay with the Browns and get paid. Firstly, I'd argue that just because he got paid doesn't mean he doesn't have a sense of pride and can't be upset. And then his next question on top of this is, do you think this could lead to another trade request from Myles? So just sort of a lot to unpack there with Myles Garrett, who has certainly been criticized for, people have basically said, well, he chose this. And then, of course, hanging over all of this is Myles happy to be here?
It's a great question, and you're right. It is a lot to unpack here. And every time I see Myles go through something like he went through yesterday, which, that doesn't happen very often, but when he gets really frustrated like this and really upset like this, it does make me wonder, is he in the offseason going to go back to the front office and say, I can't do this anymore. I need to win. I need to have some victories attached to my legacy. I want to contend for a Super Bowl. We know that's what he wanted in the offseason. And I think he's going to once again need some assurances that there's going to be significant change on the offensive side of the ball for him to want to stick around and be a part of this. It just seems like he is so frustrated, so upset. And remember when I asked him a couple weeks ago in Pittsburgh, is this like it was with Joe Thomas, where Joe Thomas admitted that it was taking an emotional toll on him? And he said yes. And now we can see that. I don't know if everybody saw the clip of him just slamming that helmet down in the middle of the game. That is not something that you see very often from your star defender, your future Hall of Fame player. So I thought that was very, very significant for him to show that kind of emotion in that football game. So yes, I do think that that there is a world in which he's going to ask for some things in the offseason. Not that he would necessarily ask to be traded again, but that he would ask for some kind of change and some assurances that things will be different. I think he's even going to do that this week at the bye week when he says he's talking to the coaches and players and different people to try to come up with solutions. As far as him getting mad and having a right to his feelings, I believe everyone has a right to their feelings. I believe that. And you should be able to express them the way that you see fit. So I don't have a problem with that. $40 million doesn't take away your heart and soul and your desire to win, even if you have an offense that can't match the intensity and the level of talent of your defense.
Yeah, and we were talking about this a little bit before we hit record too. And one of the thoughts I had was like, so the people who are complaining about Myles, and saying, well, he signed up for this. Well, would you rather him do this and be engaged and like actually want to impact change and affect change, or would you rather him just collect stats and collect checks? And because I think a lot of the same people would criticize him for that as well. They would just say, well, Myles is just out there collecting sacks and getting his checks and he doesn't care. I think it's better that he cares. Yes, he obviously did ultimately rescind his trade request and come back. He didn't have a lot of leverage in that situation. I think it would be difficult to trade him if he did one out. I don't know the cap situation off the top of my head, but it's not easy. I don't even know if it's possible. He also has that no trade clause now. So I don't know. I think, certainly there are legitimate criticisms of Myles Garrett, but to me, like I'd rather have an engaged Myles Garrett who cares and wants to win than have a guy that's just here to collect the $160 million and go home every night.
Absolutely 100%. And I even asked Alex Wright, his fellow defensive end, about that on a Zoom call today, what he felt about Myles slamming his helmet down like that, because, that can jar and rattle a team. And if you're looking at a teammate and you're seeing him kind of go off like that, it can have a ripple effect on other people. And the impact that it had on Alex Wright was that he looked over there and he saw a player who cared and really wanted to still be in the football game, even though the game was out of reach with 2 minutes left in the game. So that's what these guys are seeing in him. And I think he is actually stepping up and meeting the challenge that Jimmy Haslam put forth to him in the offseason when he said, we need him as our $40 million man, not in so many words, to step up and be a real leader for this football team. And I think he's done that. I think he tries consistently to strap this football team on his back and carry it to victory. We saw that yesterday, and he almost did it. I mean, in the first half, they were down only 9-7 because Myles refused to let them get in the end zone. They were in the red zone twice and almost in the red zone another time, and he got 3 sacks that basically kept them from scoring touchdowns. And that's the kind of impact that you need to make when you are a generational player, when you are a Hall of Famer.
Okay, let's move on to this offense. And of course, that's been one of the big topics. Now, Kevin Stefanski yesterday ruled out benching Dillon Gabriel. So it seems like they're going to stick with the rookie third rounder here for at least for another week, if not longer. I would assume longer. But look, he said that he's going to that they're going to look at everything. They're going to evaluate everything. I said on the post-game pod that for everybody on that offensive staff, Kevin and Tommy and whoever else, this should be hell week for them. Like, this should be the worst week of the year for them, trying to figure out what they need to fix with this offense. And of course, that leads to this question, which comes from Steve Buzon from Alexandria, Virginia. Hey, Mary Kay, is there internal pressure from above Coach Stefanski to give up play calling? And I mean, just more generally, do you think that's going to be the outcome of this week?
It might be. I asked Kevin Stefanski about that on the Zoom today. Will giving up play calling be something that is on the table? And he did say they're looking at everything, except for, of course, the quarterback situation, which I find a bit odd. But they are looking at everything. And I do think that it is something that they will take a look at. And I actually would be for a change in that regard, not because I think he's doing a bad job, because I think everybody involved with the offense right now is just trying to navigate a bunch of really young guys trying to work through this, and it's not easy for anybody. So I don't know if it would be the fix, but I think they have to try something. I think they have to try a few things. I raised a few of those points on our pod yesterday. I would be trying to trade for a receiver. I would be changing the play calling up. I would be doing some different things. I would schematically be doing some different things. Now, they did go out and get Brendan Bates today. They added him. Maybe they're going to do more of a 2 and 3 tight end thing because they know that they're not getting any production out of their receivers right now, and they have to change things up. So I think there will be changes. And I do think that that would be one thing that I would do. I would turn the play calling over to Tommy Rees, bring him down out of that booth, and just see if there's anything he can't do to jumpstart this offense.
Yeah, I think so much of this is just like you've reached that point where you need to try stuff, and so one of the most obvious things is what you just said. Have Tommy Rees call plays. Like, I don't know, even if he wants to stay in the booth and do it like he used to in college, whatever, maybe see if he can call plays, see if it changes anything, see if he can see things a little differently, free Kevin up to do some other stuff. I also think this is why, to the other discussion, why it shouldn't just be completely off the table to make a quarterback change, whether that's Shedeur or even Bailey Zappi. I don't know that either is the savior. I don't think either changes the outcomes here, but I just think every single thing should be on the table this week, and every single option, every player, to your point, looking at the trade market and seeing if there is some receiver who has some team control, who's young, that fits kind of the long-term vision of this thing. Like, I just don't think there should be anything left off the table this week to try and fix this offense. And again, that's just the most obvious, like, hey, let's try this. Let's just see if Tommy can jumpstart this thing a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And that leads me to the point where I also asked Kevin Stefanski today, why not try Shedeur Sanders to see if perhaps he can do any better than Dillon Gabriel has been able to do in this offense right now. And, his answer was, I don't even know what his answer was. It was something like, that's not where my focus is at right now, or something like that. But you just said you're going to look at everything. So your focus is broad. and you're looking at the whole operation. So of course that should be part of it. So I thought that deserved a better answer. I thought fans, not me, I didn't deserve a better answer, but it was a fair and valid question. And I think fans deserved a better answer for why wouldn't you try Shedeur? Now, the answer could just be as simple as, hey, this is a systemic problem that we have on offense right now. We've got a lot of issues going on that we're trying to fix and we're trying to solve it. And we don't think that it falls at Dillon Gabriel's feet. We think that if we fix some of these other things around him, that he is going to perform better. And we don't think the fix is in changing out that one person. He could have said something like that. And I think he should have said something like that, especially in a week where the Browns general manager is not talking to us on the bye week this week. And, you know, a lot of teams don't have their general manager come out and talk on the bye week. So it's not unusual around the league, but it is somewhat unusual for the Cleveland Browns because every bye week since this regime has taken over in 2020, Andrew Berry has come out and talked to us. So I don't really know what the answer is, why they're not doing that this time. But when that's the case, then I think we need some more illumination from the head coach. And I think he needed to step it up today a little bit. And I just didn't really like that answer very much.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this has always sort of been Kevin's approach, and it works when you're winning, right? Like Bill Belichick did this for 20 years because he won a bunch of Super Bowls. And with Kevin, when they were winning, it was just, okay, it is what it is. And he didn't need to be that crisis manager for the fans. But I do think there's something to be said to being able to sit up there and message to the fan base kind of where things are. And I want to say it was 23 when there was an early bye week and Andrew opened his press conference. Maybe it wasn't that year, maybe it was a different year, but he kind of opened his press conference. And I thought he gave a really strong opening statement about like, this isn't where we want to be. We're not happy with where we are. This, and he really never says anything. And some of that is just lip service. Like it's what you're supposed to say, but at least it's something. At least it's like, hey, we understand you guys are frustrated. We're frustrated too. And so I can understand why fans are frustrated with Kevin Stefanski just not offering them any sort of explanation on anything other than just, we need to get better. We need to fix things. And then when it comes to the quarterback position, I don't know if he's offering like a real explanation as to why he believes Dillon, like he did with Deshaun Watson too. He was doing this last year. He just kept saying Deshaun gives us the best chance to win. Okay, but why? Like, can you at least give some reasons? Can you give some reasons? Like, why is Dillon Gabriel the best option right now? Can you do that without throwing Shedeur under the bus? There's got to be a way to do that.
There is a way to do it. And he was a communications major. He knows how to do it. He's very, very smart. He knows how to handle the media. He knows how to answer questions. He knows what to say and what not to say. So he can give the fans a little bit more of an explanation right now for the 2-6 record. And there are plenty of explanations for it. We talk about them all the time. We write about them all the time. So, let's let the fans hear it in your own words. Here is why right now, this is what we're going to do. Now, he did later in the press conference say something along those lines that, that it is more of an 11-person job, not a 1-person job. But I just thought in that particular answer, on Shedeur point blank, why wouldn't you just give him a chance to see if he can do any better? I thought that, I thought that deserved just a little bit more of a robust explanation.
So let's kind of continue with this Shedeur thing. And I think, we touched on it last night, and I always come back to this. And again, when I say this, it doesn't mean that the organization is right or that the coaches are right or whatever, but sometimes a quarterback will get traded, right? It'll be like a Josh Rosen situation where Arizona had him in their building for a full season. And they were like, you know what? We're good. We're going to move on. We're going to go in a different direction. Somebody's going to have to figure that out probably with Anthony Richardson this offseason. Like Indianapolis is probably going to say, yeah, we're good. We've had him in our building. We're going to move on. With Shedeur, how much of this do you think it is that maybe they just really don't believe he's ready yet to handle the starting job? Or just how much is it that they want to just really give Dillon Gabriel that long leash and let him have his ups and downs. And even if it looks bad like it did yesterday, we're going to come back and try and get it fixed. I guess how much of it do you think is each one of those two things?
I think that it's a little bit of both. I really do. I think that part of it is they don't really fully, truly believe that Shador is ready to go out there right now and win football games with them with the way that this offense is set up right now in this moment. I don't think that they believe that he could go in there and be the fix. That would be a lot to ask for a rookie who fell to the 5th round because people had some concerns about where he was at in terms of his institutional knowledge of NFL type pro concepts. So I don't know if they feel that that would be prudent for them to throw him into this maelstrom and think that he could fix what's going on here, because it's not pretty. It's not pretty. And what you don't want to do with a rookie quarterback is shatter his confidence. You don't want to do that. A couple of games of getting hit and getting picked off and those kinds of things can really, really hurt a quarterback's confidence. And I think they recognize that they have to be very, very careful about when they put him in the game. Remember, we were told by the general manager that he had to go from learning English to learning Mandarin. Well, you don't learn Mandarin overnight. You don't. And you don't learn Mandarin on the practice field either in one season. You don't learn it in a couple of months. If you have that far to go up the learning curve, then it's going to take a little bit more time. Now, of course, they could design a game plan, I'm sure, where they feel he could go out there and function very well and play to his strengths and try to do the things that they know he does well, which includes his elite accuracy and just some natural playmaking ability. But none of those things are going to happen if you don't necessarily understand exactly in that split second what you're seeing, how you're seeing it, where you need to go with the ball, and what the defenses are trying to do to you, and how they just disguise that coverage when you thought you had that down, what you saw in film, and now they're changing it up because they know you're a rookie and they're playing. You know what I mean? I mean, like, there are so many things that have to go right and so many things that you have to do so very quickly. And his tendency in college was to retreat and to go backwards. And they can't have those kind of plays if you can't make up for those kind of plays. Now, we talked about this yesterday a little bit. Drake May, he's making up for those plays. He made up for 6 sacks yesterday, right? I mean, that's remarkable. That doesn't happen. He went backwards a fair amount, but he hit explosive plays, and their offense hit explosive plays. There are no explosive plays going on with the Cleveland Browns right now. So you can't necessarily take the risk of putting someone in there who is going to take negative plays for you. And I think these are all things that they're probably thinking about. He's come along and he's doing really, really well. I'm hearing really good things about how well he's doing in the building, just in terms of knowledge of the offense and knowledge of the scheme and just playing really well in practice. But it's a different world when you throw a rookie into a football game. And we're seeing that with Dylan Gabriel right now. I mean, Dylan isn't anywhere near as accurate as I think he probably will be once the game slows down for him a little bit. It's all moving very, very quickly right now. And sometimes you get a little bit rushed and the ball, or you get hit. I mean, the ball's not going to go where you want it to go if you're getting hit. So there are a lot of factors at play. And I think that they think Dylan needs something different than what he's had so far. And Shador isn't 100% ready yet for his opportunity.
Do you think they're regretting kind of how they handled these veteran quarterbacks that they had at this point? Obviously, trading Kenny Pickett at cut down, before cut down, and then benching Joe Flacco after 3 weeks. And I don't want to excuse. I mean, Joe Flacco did not play well. He turned the ball over. It wasn't all his fault. As we've seen, he's gone to Cincinnati. He's been pretty good there. It's not his fault that they lost that football game yesterday. It's the thing we've been talking about with Cincinnati all year. Their defense is awful. But he was dealing with a lot of the same circumstances Dylan has been dealing with as well. But do you think right now, kind of based on the frustration that the defense has, that Myles Garrett has, probably that these receivers have, I mean, Jerry Jeudy very uncharacteristically didn't talk after the game yesterday. He almost always talks win or lose. He just so everyone understands, when we walked into the locker room, we got in there a little late. They let us in a little later than normal. And he's usually one of the first ones dressed anyway. And he was dressed and he was actually walking out. And I said his name and he said something like, I have to go, and just kind of kept walking. So he wasn't like at his locker, but we did try to grab him when he left. And that's just very uncharacteristic of him, right? On a day when he only got targeted twice and didn't get targeted until the fourth quarter. So these guys have got to be getting frustrated. And I just wonder if maybe there's any regrets in that building right now that they don't have a guy like, not to paint Kenny Pickett as some kind of savior, but that they don't have somebody that they could turn to just come in and stabilize this thing at quarterback.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that that serious hamstring injury on the part of Kenny Pickett on the fourth day of training camp, I think that just threw a monkey wrench into all the plans. Joe Flacco was not going to be the starter. This offense is predicated on a lot of movement, not just quarterback movement, but other movement. And Kenny was supposed to be that guy that was going to step in and take it over until Dylan was ready to come in and do his thing, or until Kenny had run his course. Then it was probably going to be Dylan, and then it was going to be Shador. And so that hamstring injury threw all the plans into turmoil. But I think at that point they figured, hey, now we have to start Joe. Kenny cannot start. And then we're not going to go to Kenny after Joe. We're going to go to Dylan after Joe. And they knew that's what they were going to do. They really liked Dylan and felt that he would be ready. They didn't know at the time that so many other things would kind of be going wrong, that it wasn't going to be the right environment for a rookie. They saw what they wanted to see in him and thought he could handle it. So I don't know that it made all that much sense to keep Kenny around if they thought they were not going to play him. But maybe they do need to be a little bit more patient with these young quarterbacks and not feel that they have to throw them in so fast. Remember DTR, they really wanted to get DTR out on the field, and he wasn't ready either. So I don't know. And then Joe, I don't have a huge problem with them trading Joe away, because they weren't going back to Joe. By that point, they had already made their decision. It's the Dylan, Gabriel, Shador Sanders show now. And that's why I don't even think that they would consider going to Bailey Zappi. I think they're going to ride it out as long as they can with Dylan Gabriel, and then they're going to try Shador Sanders. And if that doesn't work, then they have something in their back pocket that we talked about on the pod yesterday. They've got Deshaun Watson in their back pocket. And if they had to do that, I mean, at some point they could go to Bailey Zappi too, after, if things just don't work out with Shador at all, or somebody gets hurt or whatever. But they've also got Deshaun waiting in the wings. And from everything I hear, he feels like he's going to be ready to play this season, and he wants to play. And we heard Bill Musgrave say good things about him the other day.
I have said all season, the absolutely most chaotic thing that could happen this year is Deshaun Watson comes back and the Browns go like, I don't know, 3-2 or 4-1 to finish the season with him at quarterback. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, maybe they can make this work with Deshaun Watson again. That would just be and I always feel like the most chaotic thing is just going to happen with this football team. So who knows? Like we always say, never rule anything out. Never say never with this team, because as long as he's on the roster, there's a chance. So let's go to Barry Gray in Los Angeles. Speaking of remaining games, hey, Mary Kay, among the 9 remaining games on the schedule, how many must the Browns win for Kevin Stefanski to return as head coach next season? And I think that's a good question, just because I guess the bigger piece there is like, does it actually matter? Like, is there a number, or is it more about how these young quarterbacks develop and how this organization feels about Kevin? I
don't know if there's a number. I don't really know what the front office is thinking. I don't really know what Jimmy Haslam is thinking right now. I wish I could say I had the answer to this question. All along, all season long, I've been saying that they're not holding their feet to the fire this season, because they know they've got the 2 first-round picks next year, and they're going to take a quarterback with one or both of those picks in some way, shape, or form. And that's when the clock starts on the advent of the second Super Bowl window. And I took so much grief for this on a radio show with Ken and Anthony on 92 The Fan, because they're almost like mocking me, talking about the fact that the Browns are trying to build their second Super Bowl window. But that's what every team does. You try to build your Super Bowl team.
Like, you're not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl like
No.
2 years from now. You're like to your point, when they traded for Deshaun Watson, that was an all-in move. The expectation was
Yes.
he was going to be the final piece to a championship roster. And
Right.
obviously that failed miserably. And
Yep.
here we are now. So, I mean, yeah, if you're going to take a quarterback in the first round, the hope is you're going to build that guy into eventually a player that could win a championship. It doesn't mean that it's going to be 2 years from now. It
No.
could be 6 years from now. But that is what, I mean, now Myles Garrett doesn't want to hear 6 years from now. Obviously, they'd like it to be a little faster. But I think people hear that and they think a certain way about it. But I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like I understand what you're saying when you
Yes,
say that.
you understand exactly what I'm saying when I talk about this. And that's because we understand what a Super Bowl window is, and it's what each team tries to do. And we know when a team is in its Super Bowl window, right? I mean, it's when you've got your quarterback and your defense is humming along, and you've got some receivers and you've got your running back, and you can contend not only to make the playoffs, but to go deep into the playoffs. And this is what teams try to do. And what the Browns did this year was put that first coat of paint on the Super Bowl window. They put that first coat of paint on, and it included Mason Graham and Carson Schlesinger and Harold Fannin, Quinshawn Judkins, Dylan Sampson, Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders. Maybe will be part of that. We'll see how it goes as they move along. And even, they added Isaiah Bond, and here they are trying to lay the foundation and the pieces.
You started to lose steam a little bit there going through that list of players.
but this is what I mean. Some of these players are going to be the key pieces to Super Bowl window.
Right.
Two.
This was a very good draft class.
It was a good draft class. And, you can see that some of them are going to be really, really good. Quinshawn's going to be really good. We know that. Harold Fannin is going to be really good. Carson Schlesinger is going to be really good. Mason Graham is coming up the learning curve, and it should shape up to be really, really good. So that's what this was all about. And remember, even Jimmy Haslam said at the owners' meetings, Andrew has to nail this draft. Remember that? He has to nail this draft. And I think they did. I mean, they went out and they maximized it by trading with the Jaguars, getting the extra picks, rebuilding their running game, getting that extra first round pick for next year. But that's what's going on here. They're rebuilding and retooling and transitioning into their next phase of a Super Bowl window because the first one didn't work out. And it didn't work out largely because the quarterback didn't work out. So now they go get the quarterback next year. They've already got some pieces and parts around that they feel pretty good about. And yeah, it probably takes 3 years to get to the point where you feel really good about the roster again. But that's where they're at right now.
They might have to build the wall first before they can actually put in the window. We can take this wherever we want. Like maybe they haven't even built the wall yet, and then they got to do that, and then they got to cut the hole in and put in the window, and then they got to figure out how to open it. All of that. I don't know how far away they are from this window, but I do understand what you're saying when you say second.
Well, thank you, because I mean those guys they took me to task on it, and then right, and then I was getting all this grief on Twitter. I'm like, did I say they were going to the Super Bowl? No. I mean, you have to understand what a Super Bowl window is. It's you're building a roster that can contend. It takes probably 2 to 3 years to rebuild it. And when you get your prize pig that I always talk about that you can take to the fair, then off you try to go.
We had a little window talk here on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. All right, let me see if there was, I thought there was another question that I had starred here, but let me check real quick. This was a schedule question I had. So when we talk about that number of games, right, and the number of games Kevin Stefanski has to win.
Right.
So right now they're at 2, and I think it's dangerous to play the schedule game with this offense. But let's say they just beat the teams they're supposed to beat, right? So we're talking the Jets, the Raiders, the Titans, and I'm going to put the Bears in this category too. So that would be 4 wins, and that would be 6-11. I think you and I both sort of had about that. I think I was at 6. I think you were at around 7. Maybe they pull a division upset because that happens. So maybe that's Baltimore. Maybe that's Pittsburgh. Maybe that's Cincinnati week 18. I guess what I'm saying is there is a path for this team to win 6 or 7 games. That's not shocking. How would you look at that, though, if they get there just by beating teams like the Jets and the Raiders and the Titans? Like, does that make it less meaningful to get to that number if they just do it by beating the worst of the worst in the NFL?
No, because I don't think that, I think that they pivoted this year and realized early on this didn't go the way that we thought it was going to go. And now this is about getting these young guys experience. And even Grant Delpit had a quote yesterday where he said, "We know what this is. We know what we have going on here. We've got a really, really young offense full of just rookies and first year players." And so I think that 6 or 7 would get them where they need to be just in terms of moving forward with the program. I think that would do it. But I think they want to see progress and development in all of these young guys. They've got to really be able to be showing some progress. And that turned out to be a bad matchup for them yesterday, because if you take Quinshon Judkins out of the game, basically, then it's going to be hard for you to function at all. And we've seen that happen a couple of times now with Dylan at the helm, where they take Quinshon out and there's nothing left. And when they come back after this bye week, they have to have some reason for hope that they can score some points and throw some touchdown passes on the offense. Maybe that's why they're adding these tight ends like we talked about. Maybe they're going to go more to a heavy, 3 tight end type of situation. I don't really know exactly what they're thinking, but it looks like it could be shaping up where they're going to focus more on 12 personnel, 13 personnel. I don't know. But and Cedric Tillman will be back. That should help them. And then I don't know. I think they need it. This is so unsustainable to go through football games like that. And they owe it to themselves to add some talent and to figure out how to get in the end zone, because this is it's too hard for fans to watch and it's too hard for players to go through it.
And this is also why I'm a little nervous to play the schedule game with this offense, because we've talked about the template is make sure 10 doesn't beat you, right? Make sure 10 and Aaron Glenn, defensive coach, is going to do everything in his power to make sure that team doesn't lose in the run game. Pete Carroll, right now Las Vegas is 10th in rushing yards allowed per play. Like, Miami was the worst run defense in football, and they found a way to, even though Quinshon broke a big one and the running game was effective, they still held that run game down. It was better than their run defense has been. So teams are going to sell out to stop this run, even the bad ones. And so that's why I'm a little iffy saying, well, they'll definitely beat those teams, but at least they have a chance.
They might not. They might not. This offense is that challenged right now. If you bump up against some of the better run defenses in the league, this team is really going to struggle unless they figure out a passing game. And right now, I don't see the path forward. I don't see the path forward for the passing game. I don't see how they're going to make that happen unless they make some kind of a change at key positions. I think you would need to add, again, I would add a receiver. I would consider some kind of a change at quarterback. I would do whatever it possibly takes to get this team functioning as an offense. Just functioning is what you really need to do.
Okay, we're going to wrap things up there. The Hey Mary Kay edition of the podcast. Normal-ish week this week. We might be a short 1 or 2 pods, but we'll be back tomorrow with our normal pod that'll feature Lance looking back at the film of that game, all of that stuff. So just get subscribed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify to keep up with when this pod goes up this week during the bye week. And then, of course, we'll be back next week with our normal week once we get back into it, heading into Jets week. Also, find our YouTube channel, Cleveland Browns, on cleveland.com. And get on our socials, Orange Brown Talk on Twitter and Orange and Brown Talk on Instagram. We've got a Syracuse student helping us out. His name is Dom. I've talked to him a little bit. He's great, and he's pushing out some socials now for us here over the next few weeks. He did a good job. He put one out today. It looked good, sounded good, all of that stuff. So, Dom, good job. Keep it up. Looking forward to see what you pull out of this pod. Mary Kay, I will talk to you later.
Sounds great.